So hi everyone, welcome back to the next episode of the Commute Shoot. I think we're episode 6 now. Maybe, yeah, or maybe we've had 6. I don't remember, but we are a few in, let's say, into Commute Shoot now. If you have been a part of all of the episodes so far, I congratulate you. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for listening to my in-journey ramblings. Today's episode, I wanted to talk about what happened on last night's SmackDown and what that means going forward for Survivor Series, so for War Games. So just to give you some backstory into War Games, it's always been a traditional maybe 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 match that was in a cage, 2 rings together in a cage. Started off in like WCW back in the 80s, and then it's made its way into popularity into the WWE, first through NXT a few years ago, and now it's made its way to the main roster and kind of formed a part of the Survivor Series, and it's become the new kind of gimmick going forward with Survivor Series. They usually have some build-up, and there's something you can see that is happening before it happens. So on the other years, there's usually a group of 4 or 5 that you can tell that this is leading to a match in War Games. Now, the group that I would have said that's obvious, that's what it's going to be happening with, was the Vision. But recently we've had the Seth Rollins being turned on and kicked out, and no one's really filled that place unless it's going to be Logan Paul. And now we have this that's happened on SmackDown with Aleister Black and Drew McIntyre. It's got me thinking, are they going to do a mismatched War Games match where it's going to be one team of Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre and Aleister Black, and then on the other side it's going to be CM Punk, Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes and Damian Priest, and then one other who we may then find out closer to the time, maybe LA Knight. He's had kind of some history in there. Maybe Roman Reigns, I don't know, someone that would come back and kind of aid in that fight at War Games. But that is really a mismatched War Games. There wasn't really a need for a War Games for that kind of fight. And this kind of sums up what a lot of people have said in the past, and I've felt the same way, which is having pay-per-views that are branded to match types. It's just, having a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, having Extreme Rules pay-per-view, they're matches that are used to usually blow off a feud or hyper feud, get it into a bigger state of competition, and you'd have this big blow-off matches in a cage, in Hell in a Cell and all that kind of stuff. But the feud would warrant the match, and the match would happen at WrestleMania or SummerSlam or any pay-per-view that there was. But when you have a pay-per-view where you go, right, this pay-per-view is Hell in a Cell, so we're going to have every match being Hell in a Cell, or this match is Elimination Chamber, so every match in there is going to be an Elimination Chamber, etc., etc. It doesn't really work if you haven't got any feuds built around that pay-per-view at the time, because then you'd end up like, oh, I've got a book like this one, Survivor Series War Games. There isn't those kind of 2 opposing groups naturally that have kind of been lined up like there has been in the past. So we're now having to just try and put people together for kind of the sake of putting people together, because we need to have a War Games match. So let's put some people together, make some friends, make some enemies, give them some reason to want to have a fight. And it being War Games, which is meant to be one of the most brutal, really ending a feud type matches. But this is almost just the start of the feud. They're just finding people for that match. It happens with Hell in a Cell, and you end up with people having a Hell in a Cell match that hardly have any kind of heated history behind them, or they try and rush it quickly and it doesn't make sense. Same with Extreme Rules. There are some gimmick matches which work as a pay-per-view. The Royal Rumble 100% works as a gimmick pay-per-view. You look forward to it because the Rumble doesn't rely on feuds for the match. It relies on the match itself having a winner that wins something that can then go on to something else. So they're fine. If you have it where the match type or the gimmick is that there's something won at the end of it. That's the purpose for it. That can be the purpose every year. We know going into it what people are wanting. They're fighting to win whatever that winning thing is. Like King of the Ring. That's another example. You can have King of the Ring as a pay-per-view. Everyone fights in it. There doesn't need to be any backstory between it. The backstory is we want to win that King of the Ring. When you have a gimmick like Hell in a Cell, that's a feud, that's a personal issue type gimmick. It doesn't really work if you haven't got any personal issues that warrant that kind of match. And Money in the Bank's another fine example of you're winning something from it. That can be a pay-per-view. I know a lot of people want Money in the Bank to not be a pay-per-view, and they want that to be a match on another event like WrestleMania or something like that. But I think it works fine. It's very similar to the Royal Rumble. There's a match. The person that wins that match then gets a title shot. A little bit different to how it is with the Royal Rumble. It's not for WrestleMania, but it's another little thing. King of the Ring they're now doing with a title shot, aren't they? Where the winner of the King of the Ring fights the champion at SummerSlam, which has kind of always been a thing, but never an official thing, and then sometimes been an official thing. But hey ho. But this one, like where's Aleister Black come from? Now I know there's history with Cody in AEW, and they had some really good matches and a good feud there. But to the WWE fan who hasn't watched AEW, that's really random that he's suddenly just now in the main event picture. He's now challenging Cody Rhodes. He's now probably going to be part of this War Games match because he's now got issues with Cody Rhodes and Damian Priest, which he's had a few issues with going in. But and now he's going to be friends with Drew McIntyre, and it just all doesn't really make sense for me anyway, from a storytelling point of view. It seems rushed. It seems put together. If you're going to put people together randomly, it doesn't need to be a War Games match. If that's what Survivor Series was about. Have a team of 5 or a team of 4, and it can be fairly random people put together in an elimination style match, and some of those people had some feuds intermixed into it. Doesn't mean we want a War Games match though. I like the concept of War Games, but you've got to have the right, if you'd had the Vision as a full team of 3 people, maybe they had another member by then, so there was like 3 or 4 of them, and then an additional person add into it because of what else was going on feud-wise. So maybe they added like a Logan Paul, or they added an Aleister Black, or they added a Drew McIntyre to the setup, and then the Vision were going to face, maybe like the original Bloodline, and you'd have Roman Reigns, and you'd have Jay and Jimmy Uso, and then maybe like adding a CM Punk, or etc., add a couple of more people, but you'd have the main part of the feud there, and it makes sense. And it seems like that would require that kind of, you could imagine that being a blow off in a cage in War Games, because of all the hatred and history and that between them. When you've got Aleister Black and you're putting in Damian Priest and with Cody Rhodes and some of the people from the Vision, and then there's going to be Logan Paul and then Drew McIntyre. It just seems a very random, mismatched kind of put together. Let me know what you think. Put it in the comments. Am I right or am I wrong? I don't mind being wrong. It's just personal opinions at the end of the day. Some people love War Games and that as a match type, and they don't really mind who's in there. They just want to see the match type, which is fine. Kind of like the Royal Rumble. I love the Royal Rumble. Don't really mind who's in the Royal Rumble. Just like the Royal Rumble. Like seeing the surprise entrance and stuff like that. To each to their own, I guess. So yeah, like I said, let me know in the comments what you think the War Games teams will be, what you think they should be, and if you think that they should be doing a War Games. I think this year it shouldn't have been War Games. There wasn't enough hype around War Games. There isn't enough build to War Games with logical steps to it. I know there's probably a situation that the ball is in motion and there's promotional activity done and posters and all that kind of stuff where it's like they can't change that it's going to be War Games just because they get to the thing and they decide, because there was probably original plans that involved the Vision with Seth Rollins and maybe Roman Reigns and the Usos and all that kind of stuff. There probably was that in place originally before things have been changed. And I've said this many times before in a lot of these other episodes. Hopefully, if they bring back more series of that Unreal show, it will show us the reasons behind these decisions. which is more interesting to me than actually what's going on at the moment, because it's not building a lot of excitement really around this event. So for me now, as a wrestling fan, I'm kind of tuned out now with Survivor Series. It's not really going to be what I'm interested in, and I probably won't pick it back up again now until the Royal Rumble, and then get ready for WrestleMania, get interested again, see what they do. Kind of, went a bit haywire last year, I think, with Cena and everything, and we've got that as well. We've got that to see Cena's last match, which is going to be happening after Survivor Series and before the Rumble. So there's some other things to look forward to, but in terms of Survivor Series and War Games, it's a thumbs down from me at the moment for the start of the build, but let's see what happens. But anyway, that is all I've got time for today on today's episode of Commute Shoot. Have fun, everyone. Enjoy your weekend. It is Saturday today. I am out of here. Have fun. Bye.